Thanks everyone for joining today, our grant proposal workshop. Mate is going to guide everyone on the best practices for creating a grant proposal, uh, requirements when anyone wants to create one, and how to submit them. We'll also go over how the grant committee evaluates and selects proposals, what goes on behind the scenes, and what types of projects are currently being prioritized, and practical tips for how to stand out from the rest of the packs. And that I'll let Mate kick things off.
Yeah, thank you so much. So, hi everyone, once again. Thanks for joining today. Today, I'll walk you through basically what San just mentioned. So, basically, how to get approved in practice for a grant and how to submit your proposal. Um, so, let's kick things off. Today, agendas will be like how to write a strong proposal, how to review the process, and what we are funding right now. And I show you a real example walkthrough as well, plus a few tips to stand out. So, why this matters? Grants equal funding plus support. What does it mean? It means that we not just fund project, but we also give deep support for the project who apply for a grant. We'd like to help the project to grow. It's obviously very important for us as Conflux, as a company, as a team. What I'd like to highlight here is it's a competitive process, meaning not every proposal gets approved. And just think here that most proposals fail due to lack of clarity or missing KPIs. But I will cover it a little bit later. So our goal here is help you increase your approval chances. Um, that's why we are here. On the next slide, I just let the rundown of Conflux integration grants application process here. It's pretty strict. Like the draft and review basically means that you draft your application, then you share it with one of our grant committee members, and then we will give you a feedback. If that happens, if it's done, then you can apply and submit your application on the forum. So it's very important that every single grant application goes through our forum. That's how we keep it transparent. It's visible for everyone. People can check it out, review that, not just from the grant committee team, but also other committee members can leave their comments, leave their questions there if needed. The evaluation itself works like where we review your project and probably will ask other questions or explanation if needed. So I'd like you to understand what we need here. Your submission is not your final submissions, obviously. So probably will ask you to adjust some numbers or modify some things. So it's uh, it's nothing very crazy. Like you can modify it any times and as many times as you wish. So and then the deploy when you launch your project on eSpace and work towards your milestones. I will cover the milestones parts once again in a later stage. And obviously, then it comes with the monitoring, where the project will report to us regularly. We'd like to track the progress, and then we'll release the funds as milestones are completed. So, so what makes a strong proposal? It has to be super clear, right? Because to be fair, as an investor, because in that sense, we are an investor of your project, we'd like to see what it does, what it can bring to the ecosystem. And if I have to read more than 5 minutes to understand your project, then it's already lost. Like probably 2 minutes reading, and then if I don't understand or it's not clear, then we might drop it. It's like it's a first decision, but that's why I wanted to make it super clear. Just keep focus. try to be very specific. All the KPIs should be measurable. That makes it easy to evaluate, and that is important for us. And obviously, it must be an ecosystem fit in any way. Like it should fill in a gap that we already have, or it should solve a problem that we have in the ecosystem. Scope and deliverables. As said, we want clear deliverables, so it must be measurable. It needs to define scope, and try to avoid like full ecosystem and multiple directions. I saw that multiple times that project or couldn't keep the focus or the scope was not there. They listed like 13, 15 different features that they like to integrate, but that's not going to happen. We all know that. So try to keep it simple, try to keep it focused on one or two major things that solves a problem that we have. And then it makes the whole evaluation process much accessible and much easier for us. Um, so yeah, let's talk about the milestones and KPIs because it's very important. So common issue is that the KPI is completely missing or the milestone itself is unclear. Um, I gave you an example here. It's just an example of it can be any project, it doesn't matter. But by the way, I copy pasted from a project that recently passed. So it's a great example. Like the milestone itself is super clear. They like to integrate BSIM hardware signing, pass security testing, and then official release. All right. That's milestone 4. So it's not the first milestone. They probably achieved something before. They had the MVP, they made the basic testings. They have a small community. It's also very important to put focus on community growth. And then it comes to the KPIs, right? Because you can see there, like we are. I mean, these KPIs are written by the team who submitted the proposal. So it's not a KPI that we like to see. The KPIs should be like met the expectations that we have, but it's defined by the team, not by us. So it's stated they will have 10 plus verified BSIM hardware users. It's fine. So that means they already have a few users. They have some transactions. They have a great success rate in the signing success rate. And there's no critical issues during the audit. And then it will trigger a payment. Um, and for the payment triggerment, there are two things that they stated. Video demo that all the things that they have in the KPIs is working correctly. They can prove it, and there's a timeline. These are the key elements for a milestone and KPIs that should be or must be in your proposal. So once again, just circle back for a second because this is the most common issue. What we need a clear milestone, and we need KPIs, timeline, and a budget tied to it. That's it. And then that way you can build up your milestones, and that way we can pay the settlements for each milestone. And one other important thing here is we can break it down into two sections, like pre-grant steps and grant steps. Pre-grant means that you already have something, or what we like to see is at least an MVP or at least something on testnet that makes the process much faster. Obviously, you can apply for a grant without an MVP or without testing your product on testnet. But to be fair, it's the minimum requirement to have these two things at least to trigger the first payment. And yeah, if we can't measure it, we can't fund it. It's that simple. And social and growth KPIs, I'd like to highlight this again. It's super important because, all right, once you have a product, once you have a strong tech, once you have a strong team, um, then you will need to sell it to someone. Then you have to then you need some kind of marketing. and marketing effort is missing sometimes from some grant proposals. It's very important. It's understandable that you need some money to market it. You need a go-to-market strategy that we like to see in a grant proposal, as well as the KPIs related to marketing, which is content output, user growth, campaigns. We are really happy to help you and support in the campaigns phase, and community engagement. So once again, just tell us what you need. We can hold AMAs, we can do cross promotion, we can do whatever. Just it's important for us to grow together. So put it in your grant proposal. And yeah, here's the catch: strong tech without growth equal rejection risk. Mm. The review process itself start with initial screening, which means then the community grant committee members will go over your proposal, and we'll probably set up a meeting around that, and then we'll internally evaluate that. And then comes the community voting, where I basically collect all the important information about the grant proposal, make it as an email, and send it out to all the grant committees and the founders to cast a vote. And obviously, the iteration part, circling back to the second or third slide, um, it always happens. So you have to modify and adjust your proposal based on our needs, or based on our requirements, or just based on our opinions. So, and these requirements usually come from the foundation. They have a clear plan, or clear strategy, how to, or what kind of direction that we like to head, and it has to fit into that direction. That's it. Um, but what we actually look at is impact and feasibility, and obviously the team. Um, so it must fill in a gap in the ecosystem that we have, um, and that makes the project unique, and that makes the project feasible. Yes, so current priorities that we have: AI agentic stuff's super trending. It's important for us to integrate or have developed more this kind of project on top of Conflux. Um, we have very strong stablecoins narrative that fits with real world assets as well. So we are looking for project that related to it. Obviously, DeFi. Um, it can be any kind of DeFi project. And just to clarify something, that the current priorities that we have can be different or changed. Depends on the market conditions, or depends on the trends. So feel free to reach out to us, even if your project is not one of these, or does not fit into any of these. We can discuss, and we'll find a solution. And infra projects are always welcome. Um, what we actually want: project that bring users, transactions, and activity. It's very important again. Why? Because users, we like to grow as well. So we need users from every region, every country, everywhere. Transactions, that where we made the money, so it's obvious. And obviously, activity, it basically means both of these. Print screen, one of the recent application that has passed. It's basically a wallet project. It's really good. Just show you the example of how a good proposal looks like. That was the first 2 minutes I had to read to go through this section. And it was obvious what they want to make, what they want to build, what kind of gap they will fill in, what is our problem and what is the solution. Um, so it's really good. And here's the KPI section and milestone sections, super clear, obvious what they want to reach, how much money they need, and what is the payment trigger. It's super obvious. So It has to be like that. And why this is a good proposal? Because they have a clear use case, strong ecosystem relevance. It fits grant categories, as I mentioned, aligns with the Conflux priorities, and what it does well. Defines the product clearly. I can go through in 2 minutes. I understand everything. It's super simple. It's clear. It has real users in the targets and improves the ecosystem itself. So has a clear integration value. I would say at Conflux we'd like to keep things simple in a way that if we just don't want to read like thousands of pages because doesn't make any sense. We'd like to see clear KPIs. We'd like to clear simple project that solve a solution and it's aligned with our ecosystem. And I have a link here is basically the grant application template that you have to follow. All the requirements, everything is there. You basically just need to follow the requirements, and you're gonna be done. But you can ask anytime from any of us if you have any questions. And I forgot to mention that you can get 5 extra points during the hackathon if you submit a grant proposal on the forum.
Awesome. Thank you much for that informative presentation. It was great. I'm curious, like from a personal perspective, what projects you'd be most keen to review.
I think, as mentioned, AI agentic or AI agent related projects are probably the most interesting at the moment. But I'd love to see like other type of protocols, such as a landing protocol with a strong narrative. I know it's a risky business. I know they are in the target of scammers, but would love to see because that could bring us like a huge number of transactions and other
Did
things.
part of the grant proposal include a budget for incentives if bootstrapping liquidity was an important part of go to market?
Sorry, can you repeat?
I was just asking if a grant proposal could include a budget for protocol incentives in CFX to help bootstrap liquidity if, like, say, it was a lending protocol and needed help on the supply side.
Uh, yeah, to be fair, I don't know. I don't know. Maybe you can have to bootstrap that, but I'm not pretty sure. The issue is here is like currently the audit itself, like a really good audit, consume like at least 50K or even more USDT, right? So to launch such a protocol, it's super heavy on the investment side. So you asked me what I'd like to see. I'd like to see a strong landing protocol on top of Conflux, but I know it's like a dream. It's a dream because it's super heavily investment heavy.
Thanks again, Mate, for your awesome, insightful presentation. And I hope that any builders in the audience are inspired to submit a proposal. Don't forget, you will earn extra points for the hackathon, and we'd love to review your submissions. Yes, and before you submit the proposal, anyone in the Conflux team can help review it and give feedback on what's missing or how to strengthen the proposal. All right, guys, thank you very much. Have a wonderful day.
Thank you guys. Bye bye.